President Trump has been promoting his big, beautiful bill for months, but lawmakers from his own party tanked it. This as Democratic lawmakers raised the alarm that hundreds of thousands of their constituents could lose Medicaid coverage due to the Republican proposals. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. He serves on the Oversight and Intelligence Committees. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. So this big, beautiful bill could mean cuts for over 13 million Americans. So what's going to be the impact if the Budget Committee adds even more cuts to placate the deficit hogs?
Well, I think that it's going to be devastating for the millions of people who are going to be losing their sole source of health insurance. In Illinois alone, we're looking at upwards of 800,000 people losing their health insurance. We're talking about maybe 10 million people across the country losing their health insurance through Medicaid. And so it's going to have a devastating impact. I'm a product of public housing and food stamps myself, and food stamps, now known as SNAP, is also on the chopping block, and that is going to affect another set of people who are further going to lose access to food security.
Congressman, a lot of measures in this bill, the Medicaid cuts, the food stamp cuts, among other things, would basically shunt more costs onto states, including Illinois. And states do not seem particularly well positioned fiscally to absorb those additional costs, especially Illinois, which has historically struggled quite a bit with its budgets and balancing budgets. What do you think the impact would be specifically on your state, on your constituents, and in general, how will this affect state budgets around the country?
Well, as you know, a lot of states right now have these trigger laws, which mean that if the Republicans decide to reduce the federal share of Medicaid for the part of Obamacare that allows for Medicaid expansion for these tens of millions of people, if they reduce that federal share, basically states like Illinois will not be able to afford any portion of that Medicaid expansion, and people will immediately lose access to Medicaid. Now, that has tremendous ripple effects because in underserved areas as well as rural communities, the share of revenue that these health systems, these hospitals receive from Medicaid is very high. So you could see these health systems collapse. They'll close their doors not only to Medicaid recipients, but to all recipients potentially, whether they're from private health insurance or Medicare. And so you're talking about potentially layoffs in the healthcare industry. You're talking about lots of people, even apart from people on Medicaid, not being able to access health care. And so it's going to, quite frankly, it's going to be something that all of us feel, regardless of who is on Medicaid and who's not.
Congressman, Medicaid very rightfully, healthcare very rightfully at the center of the conversation around this bill. But I want to ask you about some of the provisions, sections that aren't getting as much attention, but I know from some of my own sources, some organizations in the country are incredibly concerned about, in particular, allowing the federal government, the Trump administration, to potentially go after nonprofits that they believe support terrorism in the United States. And I'm wondering what you think the intention on the part of some of your Republican colleagues might be behind this. Of course, already, if anyone is involved in terrorism in the United States, the federal government has the ability to go after them. So why single out nonprofit organizations in the United States at this moment in this way, you think?
It's basically to send a message of fear. It's about basically trying to get them to perhaps curb their criticism of the Trump administration or to curb their activities in a way that's compliant with whatever policies the Trump administration is trying to pursue. And so this is deeply distressing how they are going after these not-for-profits. And let's just be clear, they're going after their First Amendment rights ultimately. We're going to see a lot of litigation on this. And I think that hopefully the Supreme Court stands by these not-for-profits and their activities. but the Trump administration is absolutely trying to send a message that if you come criticize us or engage in any activities that we find, are against our viewpoints, then we're going to come after your funding.
Congressman, can I get your thoughts on a slightly different subject in the bill, more specifically Afghan refugees in this country, which the administration now is basically saying it is safe for Afghans, certainly Afghan nationals, who worked alongside the U.S. military and had refugee status here in the United States and were protected, are safe for them to go back to Afghanistan that is currently under the control of the Taliban, who we were at war with for the better part of 20 years. I just want to get your thoughts on that statement and whether there is anything Congress can do to prevent that from happening.
First of all, I think that statement is deeply erroneous. It's actually crazy. One of the biggest triumphs of my office from a constituent services standpoint is being able to have saved some Afghans who worked with the U.S. government and brought them over to the United States to be resettled, including in one case, not only the individual who worked with our U.S. military, but his wife and a baby as well. By sending these people back, we are basically writing their death warrants, because they will not only be persecuted, they will, in many cases, they will be killed by the Taliban. Afghanistan is not safe for these people to return. And so as far as what we in the U.S. Congress can do, we're in the minority, but we should use every tool at our disposal to both shine a light on what is about to happen to these people, try to get some Republicans to join with us, and hold people accountable who will not, and make this an issue that we also join with veterans groups in advocating for as well.
All right. Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated, as always.